Hey, everybody, welcome back to another episode of Behind the Curtain. I'm your host, Lauren Shippey, and today we're going to be talking about this whole theme of self reliance. In this series, I've been unpacking some of the things that leaders can sometimes struggle with behind the curtain, we're calling it. And there's a whole long list of things that we can face. And the point of this is not to draw attention to the negative, but it's to call the negative into light. And then what are we going to replace it with? So that is the beauty of this series, is that we get to look at things one at a time and kind of unpack them a little bit and then figure out, what does it look like for me to replace this with something else, something better? And you guys have probably heard me reference like operating in an old way versus a new way. Then I was just writing down a couple things the other day that came to mind, and I was thinking about even things like self-reliance or pride or self protection, a doubt, fear. We've talked about quite a few of these things so far. And, I was thinking that's like an old operating system. It's an old pattern, an old way that maybe served us at some point in our life, but doesn't serve us well anymore if we want to experience true connection, deeper community in the giving and receiving in relationships. And so there's a new operating system. So and then I had this whole memory of DOS. Like, if you guys remember DOS, it's like you couldn't run DOS on your computer today, right? It would probably explode. I don't know what would happen. Um, and so we can't do it's like when we step back into patterns like manipulation or control or fear or whatever it is, or self-reliance, it's like we're trying to run DOS on our brand new computer, and our computer doesn't know what to do with it. And if you've gone through the process of shedding some of these things, unpacking them, and then replacing them, when you go back, like you can't go back, because now you know the cost of that, the cost associated with that. And you know that that's not really who you are. And so that translates into like operating in your false self instead of your real self, right? And these are some of the things that we've talked about this year. So what's so great is that we don't have to do that anymore, and we're so free to operate in who we truly are. And so what does self-reliance really look like? And maybe it's just a pattern that you have of defaulting to how you can figure something out, how you can do it on your own, how you can make something happen. And maybe you've had to do that at certain points in your life. Maybe you've had to fully rely on yourself because the people around you didn't feel reliable or trustworthy. And so that can then become a pattern. And what I was thinking about was that that can also be associated with pulling in. So, this like self protection layer where it's almost like we are hunkering down, like inside in our minds and our bodies, and like withholding things, because we are afraid of releasing things and maybe good things not coming back to us. And so, what I want to point out here is that this theme of like withhold no good thing keeps coming to mind. And I even can find myself in a pattern of doing that. Like, oh, okay, I've been like, there's been so much that, maybe I've been releasing or giving or whatever. And it's not, I want to really be clear here. It's not striving that you're operating in when you are withholding no good thing. It is releasing. So let's talk about the difference. So striving is really forcing yourself to feel like you have to do good things. And it's relying on yourself to be able to do those good things. Like, oh, what should I do today? I got to figure something out to do. I got to figure out like a good deed or something to do. It's not that, because that's striving and that's like forced, behavior, and that's operating in like the old way, the old operating system. But you don't have to do that, because instead you can just reflect. You can watch opportunities, the people in your life. And through that time that you have, like when you have eyes to see and you're watching just what's happening, what's unfolding before your eyes, who is coming to mind, and what's coming to mind for them, you will naturally step out of striving and into withholding no good thing, releasing. And that's such a beautiful part of relationships that are just genuine and authentic. And I think that is that's the fruit of stepping out of self-reliance and self-protection and into who we truly are. Because if you think about it, when you were born, you didn't know that you weren't supposed to withhold things from people to keep them back. If you had something good, if you had some kind of treasure, right, as a kid or something, you naturally want to share it until you learn not to, like until you got hurt or until something like, you got like a sucker punch, right? Um, and so the beautiful part about this process of releasing that stuff regularly and really focusing on your heart posture, because that's really the most important piece, like to guard your heart and protect it, not in like a, I'm going to hunker down and not talk to anybody because nobody's safe kind of way, but in like a, I'm going to understand what relationships are filling me and feeding me and are safe. And those that aren't, I just know that I need some type of boundary line, right? Like, so it's knowing where you are for yourself, that self-awareness, and being able to navigate that. And so I think all of these things can shape who we are and how we release this year. And I think 2026 is a year of releasing good things. It's so withhold no good things. So try to step into this. Like if I could just give you maybe some tangible advice, if you're like, this sounds great, but how do I actually do this? The first step would be to maybe catch where you find yourself in that old operating system in your DOS program, where you have to remember like which number to type to get to the screen, and it's really exhausting. So what you want to do is first recognize where you are still striving and you're exhausted. So a mark of this is if you leave a meeting and you are absolutely exhausted, drained, you felt like it sucked the life out of you, or there's a conversation that you had or an event you went to or somewhere, an atmosphere that was absolutely exhausting. This is a mark of striving, maybe overcompensating, self-reliance, something going on. So then the next thing is just pause and take an account, like take an inventory of, all right, what happened there? Like, how did I feel? What was going on? What were the dynamics at play? And am I experiencing some kind of dynamic that is not going well and I'm responding in a certain way? So the next thing you can do is, how am I going to shift or change that atmosphere dynamic? What am I going to take ownership of and make a change so that I can withhold no good thing, so that I can release in a healthy way? And so then you can look at that and say, okay, I can't control anyone else around me, any other circumstances necessarily, but I can look at myself, look at the dynamic, and receive, if it's some healing, if there's something you need to release, like some forgiveness, or, there's some kind of shift that needs to occur in you. And then you can have fresh eyes to see the situation or the dynamic or the meeting or the, whatever it is, in a different way. And that's operating in the new way. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. As always, feel free to share with somebody. If somebody comes to mind during this, maybe it's for them. And we'll talk to you soon.